Okay, we're live. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Roll call vote. I'm here. Ms. Allen, Mr. Gibler,
Here.
Mr. Palin,
Present.
Mr. Horstman,
Here.
and Mr. Strugstead.
Here.
You guys got the minutes in front of you from the previous meeting. Is there any corrections that you guys noticed? Hearing none, minutes will stand. We have no visitors that aren't going to present. So we'll get right into claims and reports.
Good morning, everyone. This is Nancy. My claims are going to be a little high this month, and that is pertaining to I did have to order all new birth, death forms, vital records. So that's going to be a little bit higher than normal. I also want to let you know that I took applications for the opening in my office. It ended on Friday. So this week I will be interviewing for the position that is open in my office. And that is all I have right now.
Any questions before we get into the claims themselves? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and start.
All right, creative printing, $653.81. GBS Incorporated Associates, $4,310. Other GBS Incorporated Associates, $21,661.56. GBS Incorporated Associates, $5,635 even. SBM, $416.15. Civic Systems, $1,867.50.
I have a total of $34,544.02.
Iron Mountain Associates, $97.34.
I have a total of $97.34.
Creative Printing, $1,244.12.
I have a total of $1,244.12.
Perfect. Moving on to the treasurer's office, we'll start with tourism. Here you go, Mr. Palin.
I'm sorry, I don't have those figures right now.
Nope, we'll give them to you right now. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Lee County Tourism Council, $748.09. City of Dixon, $4,748.09. Lee County Treasurer, $144.61.
Go ahead.
So I have a total of $9,640.79.
79 cents.
Yes.
So all these.
That's capital number. Oh, there's one on there. Add it.
Just add it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then 012 is right there. 001 is actually your.
Sorry?
Nope, you're good. Moving on to the capital fund.
Civic Systems, $25,590.
$25,590.
Oh, never mind.
Pitney Bowes, $935.13.
$935.13.
Civic Systems, $1,867.50. Paul Meyer for supplies, $26.39. Samantha Schmidt, $78.40. Sterling Business Machines, SBM, $34. US Bank, $1,134.85. US Bank, $48.21.
I have a total of $3,189.35.
Fantastic. Paula, you want to give a report? No, Paula. Got two.
His name is
Paul and Paula can be
Paula.
confusing.
Gorski, not Paul. That's it, because we've already got the block on the Paul names in our office.
So to avoid confusion.
So I pronounced him Gorski. Anyway, we're still working through some of the bugs with the conversion to the new accounting/payroll system. The auditors were in over the last couple of weeks. I think they're pretty well done. They have some more follow-up to do on some of the grants. So they'll be finishing those. And that's about it, I guess. Just kind of trying to work through all of that. I don't know that there's anything new. Other than I'm going to try to work through, yes, there is something else new. I'm going to try to work through BEST to hire an intern, an additional person in the office to get through the summer and on down the road. So, yep, I think that's about it.
Okay, moving on. Any questions for Paula? Moving on to ROE.
Good morning, everybody. This is Bob. We have a short list of bills. Only one packet for you guys. So you have those?
All right, City of Sterling,
We'll get your claims paid, Bob, real quick. Go ahead.
City of Sterling, $22.54. Republic Service, $25.63. Illinois Water, $13.59. Purity Plus, $28.34. ComEd, $171.30. Alarm Detections, $183.20.
So I have a total of $444.
Go ahead, Bob. Give a report if you want.
Okay. Well, you should have gotten, we give you a pretty lengthy report just so you can keep updated. I'll just highlight it. As you know, teachers are now in the 1B group, and I know all 3 counties have started to vaccinate teachers. It's a voluntary vaccination. So not every teacher has decided to do it. There's a few that can't, pregnant, which my daughter is an educator that is due on April 14th, and she can't get the vaccine yet, and she won't even while she's breastfeeding. So that's an exception. Other ones have decided they just didn't want to, but I have only heard of a few reactions, and one who has allergic reactions to a lot of things. She had one to the first one. They advised her not to get the second one. But that's the only one I've really heard of. I had my first one, and I had very, very mild reactions. I get my second one February 15th. We had Title IX training. We had an administrator academy that we had set up. And so Chris and I and Angie Garza from our office went through it, and we're all trained now for that so we can help all our smaller districts. Chris was recently appointed to the Illinois Terrorism Task Force, which was pretty cool. With that, though, in a few, I think probably in March, I'll be submitting for approval for him to attend a conference. It's a conference in Las Vegas, but it's in April, and it is a very good school security conference. 3 of the ROEs are going together to send people there at a discount rate. So I think that's really going to be good for Chris and for the office to have him more trained on, I guess, is that correct? More trained better on school security. Our digital engagement committee is doing great. We've got a new website that's going to be going up. We have a new app for our phones. They're doing daily content on their social media platforms, all this way above my head. But they're doing a great job with everything that they're doing. School inspections are done, and I'm proud to report that the kids are just doing great with all the COVID-19 restrictions. I saw very few that were not wearing masks. Some of them had it below their nose. Some of the kindergartners and preschoolers were having a little trouble with them, but all in all, it's been very good. Everything's gone very well. Our professional development staff is completely virtual. And as you can see, this is normal. Our December and January numbers are down because it's a shortened month, and teachers are just swamped with what they need to do. I really like that you get a chance to look at our report from our Center for Change. We're going great guns with that. That's one that has a safe school program for kids that have been expelled or are close to being expelled. And then it also has an alternative school program for those kids that can't quite make it in the brick and mortar school. We're just about full. We're looking at opening 2 more classrooms for next year and hiring another teacher, at least 1, if not 2. So we're probably going to have to go to the districts and ask them for more tuition money, because we just don't get enough money in our funding from the state to handle everything. Just to give you a little background, when I started in this job as the assistant in 2003, my grant for the Safe School program for just Whiteside County was $110,000. Last year we got $86,000 for 3 counties, and we have a bigger program. So the districts have to pay some tuition. We do get some EBF funding, but we're making it work. And we're talking to our superintendents now about maybe having to raise the tuition from $500 a quarter to $750 or $1,000 a quarter, but it's still great. It's still a good bargain. Those kids need to have someplace to go. And you'll see through there, I really like the programs that they're doing. They're making it like a regular school. If you look through a little bit, you'll see there's a guy there in a goofy whole suit uniform for Ugly Sweater Day, that's me. And everything is going great. Our True and Alternative program is really got a strange year, because if kids are working from home, how do you say they're not there? So it's really been interesting. We have more referrals by the end of December than we had the entire year last year. So we're working on that. We're having to hire at least one more person to help with clerical. And one of my administrative assistant, who is your employee, Michelle Hopp, is doing a great job by picking up part of the load for our coordinator. Parents as Teachers first year is all virtual, but they're doing very well. Our educational outreach program works through BEST, and they had 7 students that have earned their high school equivalency, which we used to call the GED, and 8 of our previous graduates have got employment. So we're really proud of that. McKinney-Vento is our homeless program. It's really tough to identify kids that are homeless in the pandemic. So our numbers are down. I don't think they're really down. I think that we aren't seeing the kids. So we're working with our districts on what we can do there. Any questions?
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, and one thing, I will be going in, it looks like February 19th for my second knee replacement surgery. So March will probably be covered by Chris like he covered January for me when I had my first one done. So.
Okay, well, we wish you good luck there too.
Okay, thanks.
Moving on, we have a county board.
Legal Enterprise Zone fee, admin fee, $10,506.75. Samantha Schmidt, $75. Walter Law, $5,460.
That was for the negotiations.
Okay. Sikich, $5,850.
And that's our quarterly fee.
Sauk Valley Media,
I think that's for the audit, isn't it? Oh, no, that's the HR one. Okay, never mind.
Sauk Valley Media, $27.30. And US Bank, $427.16. $270. Okay. Yep. Sorry.
I have a total of $22,346.21.
$346.21. Okay. Bob's not in here. Anybody want to comment on any of this? If not, we'll just keep moving on. Assessor?
Jim Smith, $28.45. Tom Mead, $119.85. Lori Herbs, $143.64. Leaf, $248.08. Quill, $79.19. US Bank, $12.99.
I have a total of $632.20.
And we'll move on to GIS.
The Sidwell Company, $2,414.
Total of $2,414.
Perfect. Wendy, you want to give a report?
Good morning, everyone. Just a couple pieces of information on those claims that you just read through. The three members of the board of review, Jim Smith, Tom Mead, and Lori Urbis, what that is mileage. They get paid through the payroll system, and we collect mileage for the entire year of them driving here for meetings when they need to. So that's a year's worth of mileage that we're paying them for. And on the GIS side of things, the $2,400 is a license fee for GIS software and parcel maintenance software. We have 2 licenses of that. We've already paid the one. This one was a little bit confusing by the company, and they finally got it straightened out, and we're paying it now. By way of update with my department, we did the last week in January, we wrapped up the board review season. So the final 2020 data entry is currently being done. That includes the data entry of the board review changes that were made, and it also includes all of the December transactions that took place of property sales, so that in the next week or 10 days, we will be closing out the 2020 year and rolling that to the clerk for preparation of the extension. And what that means for us is that then we kick off the 2021 assessment year. So assessment meetings with township assessors and homestead exemptions and et cetera will be kicking into very shortly. I don't have anything else unless any of you have any questions.
Anybody have anything for Wendy? Moving on to VA.
The County Transportation Fund, $1,292.35.
And just for everybody, this is mileage is for multiple people, about 8 or 10, all on one sheet.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We'll go to the next one. Lee County, yeah, what's that? All right, $138.42. Lee County Trans Fund, $218. Little Lee County VAC, $101.98. 101.98.
Was there a question on DOT?
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Hold on.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Bill.
Was there a question there on DOT, the charge for DOT?
No,
Oh,
no, we're trying to figure out a rounding mistake between 2. So,
okay, thank you.
yep.
I'm sorry, yes, Oliver Corner Market, $248.52. It was stuck to the,
And the first one should have been $1,292.35.
So corrected on here.
To correct it, and so you said you had how much?
I had 85 cents.
Okay.
And my totals, I should subtract 50 cents, right?
Correct. It's 28. 199928.
Okay, yep, so total $1,999.28.
And last but not least is IT.
Event, $11,535.73. US Bank, $119 even. US Bank, $154.12.
I have a total of $11,808.85.
Okay. Paul, you want to give a report?
Thank you. Again, my name is Paul Gorski, the new Lee County IT Administrator. I want to thank the Ad hoc Hiring Committee and this committee for giving me the opportunity to serve Lee County as your IT Administrator. This is the third full day since we had a weather abbreviated day last week, so I'm just kind of getting my feet wet here. Regarding those claims, those were presented to me on Friday, and in my old township trustee verbiage, they appear to be legitimate and properly presented, so I have no question. And there's an update on my activities here. I've met many, but not all of the elected officials and department heads. I'm going to continue doing that this week. I'm also going to be sending out a brief little survey out to the department heads and elected officials. And by the end of the week, I'll also be sending out a kind of a Lee County IT survey to all the people that have email addresses listed in our directory for the county of lee.org. I've already been working with my direct report, Zachary Owen, on putting out a little bit of fires here and there, and for some of the elected officials and people. And I've reached out to Jonathan here, and we're going to be talking later this week to see how we can maximize the number of hours he's putting in here in Lee County under the best dollars. And one of the more visible fires that I put out was an update to the website already that I had a request to make the judicial Zoom links a little bit more visible and accessible, which I did. I created a page where there are buttons for those instead of just simple PDF with the Zoom information, and added a couple of links on the home page for it, which don't stand out necessarily. I just say judicial, because what I'd like to do is actually add all of the county's Zoom meeting information there under a virtual meeting links page, unless somebody has objections to that or any questions on it. And then this week, again, getting in touch with the rest of the elected officials and department heads who I haven't met, diving into the new phone systems coming forward here. And I have an immediate need for a piece of hardware, a switch that's been sitting around here for about a year, it looks like, and needs to be swapped out. And we hope to have that done by the end of the week. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I do. This is Jim Horstman. Hi, Paul. I believe there's an open position within the department. Do you have a timetable or any ideas about how and when that might be filled?
What I'd like to do is to determine what the needs are, and what tasks need to be typically addressed, and then prioritize the staff on that. So after I do it's part of my survey that I'm kicking out. So I might have some recommendations for you for the next meeting. But what I'm hoping to do is be able to continue doing some work myself, then Zachary, and then putting Jonathan to more work, and going forward come from a recommendation of that. Right now, since I don't have a history of what type of problems you typically have on a daily basis, weekly and monthly, I'm trying to collect that information personally as things come in, and also through my surveys and my interviews with people. Did the body have a deadline? Okay. I would like to get it, if there's funding available for it, I'm certainly would like to take it, advantage of it as my earliest opportunity. But I just want to see where that person would fit in and what tasks they would be doing. So.
Okay, I think that's what was anticipated. We wanted you to come in and assess things and then let us know.
That's the thing. It's, and there's in IT, there's different kind of, you can get a generalist or you might target things with a specialist, like somebody that's like first line support for something like getting Microsoft Word and Office icons on people's desktops, or making sure the printer is working or something like that. And then somebody that's focused more on the network infrastructure and the like. And right now we have a couple of network infrastructure issues to deal with along with the phone system. So I want to see if those are going to be long-term concerns or simply deployment concerns. But right now, again, I'm going to wait till I get my survey done and make my recommendation to this committee. So if you have any questions or if you have any ideas that you want to chat about, I'll be sending out a little introductory email to all the county board members after this, by the end of today, and you'll have my direct contact information, and we can chat about it if you have any particular suggestions.
I just had one more quick question. During the interviewing process, we talked a little bit about instituting a time tracking system of some sort. Is that on your radar screen, something you're going to try to institute?
It is, and I'm looking at my opportunities. I want to actually talk to the state's attorney's office and see if they have any concern about there's systems we can host internally and offsite, and some of them are at no charge at all. They're freeware with some security built into it, but I just want to know if anybody has any concerns about hosting any IT ticket information offsite, or if I need to do it on-site. So, but my goal is to get it up sooner rather than later, because I'm kind of, this email texting workflow doesn't work for me. And we need to be able to track it so that we can better allocate our resources. So right now, if I had to throw out a term, the package I'd be looking at would be Spiceworks. It's a popular open source tool in the IT community, used by hundreds of thousands of IT professionals, and they have on-site and cloud hosted solutions for it. And it's pretty easy to get up and running and get ticketing going and tracking through that system right now. So,
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Jack leaned over to me and said, not a bad idea. I informed him I have no idea what you're talking about. So I am glad to have an IT administrator. We're very fortunate to have you on board. I'm going to skip around a little bit.
Well, I'd just like to add, those of you who were in the interview also learned that I've also served in elected office for 18 years. And so, when I got reports from IT people, I understood them, but I knew sometimes that the rest of the people on my boards did not. So if you need ever a translation table or something like that, let me know. All right, thanks.
I guess I'll let Charlie talk.
Thank you. I just want to let Ed Services Committee as well as Paul know that the presiding judge did reach out to me yesterday, and she was very happy with how that change in the website was
Oh,
produced.
really?
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
I'm going to, we kind of identified the IT update, hiring update, but I do want to commend the hiring committee, Jim, Alan, Danielle, Wendy, and everybody who was a part of it. I think you guys put in a tremendous amount of work, and we definitely appreciate it. So is there any other questions? Motion to pay the claims?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
Second, Bill Phelan.
Bill Palin. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Perfect. We didn't forget this month. Moving on, old business. We have the policy prohibiting sexual harassment for Lee County. That's just on there. It's already on executive, but we have to hold it over. So we will vote on it here in February. So just not really an update there, just that it's there. What's that? Were there any changes to it that wanted to be addressed? Hearing none, I'll move on. We've got the sexual harassment training. Once we pass the ordinance, we'd like to have Sikich start sending out the sexual harassment online training. And the question was presented to us on board members, if they have to take it, and if they're going to be paid per diem. So the board is looking for a recommendation out of this committee of what we believe on those topics. So, Mr. Strogstad.
I have an opinion on this, and again, it's my opinion, and I hope it's taken well. I think as board members, we lead this county, and I think we need to lead by example. So I believe that we should take that. I think we are also employees of the county, that we need to follow the same rules that the employees do. So I believe we should take that. Now, as for the per diem, this is where I believe that. I mean, before the board meeting today, last night, I looked at the paperwork or the downloaded information that Becky sent, and I read it. And it took me, 30 minutes to read, look through it. As I do with every board meeting, I come prepared, or at least I want to know what's going on, and even in the other committees. So I take the time, but I'm not being paid for that. So I think we should take that test, or we should, take the training, and I think we should do it for free. I don't think the board should take any monetary fee for that. It's what we do. It's what we're supposed to be doing. It's just, we're elected. I was appointed, but it's just some of the things that I think that we should do for the citizens. That's my opinion.
I agree.
Any other discussion?
I have a slightly different viewpoint I would like to express. The statute seems pretty clear that completing the online course provided by the department is sufficient compliance. The statute says you either complete that, which I think all of us did, or you can complete a privately designed course that covers the same material. It costs the county for each person who will take the Sikich course. So it may not, in the greater scheme of things, it may not be a huge amount of money, but it is costing us to put the board members through the system. I think it's $15 a head, and it exceeds what the statute requires. So I feel like as long as we're complying with the statute, that's sufficient.
It wasn't the concern that we have no way of knowing that somebody took it without going through Sikich. So I could say that I read through the material, but nobody knows that I really did.
And did you hear that?
I did.
Okay.
And the answer to that is that the department has set up a system whereby at the end of the course, you sign and confirm that you've taken it, and you end up having a certificate that says that you've complied with the statute. Now, if people are going to perjure themselves, there's not much we can do about that. But in terms of due diligence and making sure that people have completed the course, you could simply have them submit the certificate, which I think is done. We do that with Open Meetings Act course. And I think we're also doing that with the previous round when we took the sexual harassment course. So the answer is, how do we tell if people have done it? They submit the certificate that's provided at the end of the department's course.
Mr. Bally, you got a comment?
Yeah, so we had to take an ethics training at work and stuff and complete the course. And basically what it is a liability. It eliminates the liability on the company. Like if something was unethically done, the company comes back and says, you took this course, you know the rules. And basically this is, I'm sure what this is. Once you took the course, you knew the rules, you have no argument to say, I do not know. So yeah, you just need to read through this. You need to say that you did it and that you know the rules. And that's basically the liability then comes if somebody does not follow these rules. They can be let go, you know, not without reprimand or without recourse. So
I've got 5 department heads here in the room, and I really ask them, I think they're already stretched to their wits' end when it comes to HR. Is this something that you want to be collecting online certificates from your employees to make sure that they complete the trainings? Or
Well, it's probably not fair for me to say because I've got, 5 employees, so it's not overwhelming. It's also something that we do on other topics that are related to employees. So I have an employee file where I collect these things on a regular basis. So to me, collecting those certificates would be a very minimal impact.
I'll be doing the same thing at the Regional Office of Education. We do that with a lot of our trainings. And so collecting the certificates is not that big a deal.
As a new department head and also as a current elected official in another county, I think it'd be good policy to collect that as confirmation. I think most of the programs out there that have some type of certificate that prints out at the end, whether it's the Open Meetings Act or FOIA education or FOIA officer education or this type of education. I think the question before you now is whether or not, one, that everybody, be subject, to do it through the sickage program. And then the second question, whether or not county board members do it. And I think for a matter of consistency throughout the county, you stick to, the same training so everybody's been exposed to the same thing and the same process. I'm not familiar with the sickage program per se. I just came out of a similar program at an organization out of Chicago where we all had to take our certificates and keep them available. They didn't actually file them with HR.
So is the training different for board members?
no, the training would be different for whether you're a supervised employee or a non-supervised employee. The sickage cost is $30 per employee, and for me, I look at it as it's making the department heads not have to be responsible for babysitting this. I think it's something to take off their plate to make somebody else be the bad guy, because nobody really wants to take these, but we have to. So, and then the question is, do the board members take it? So I guess, Mr. Palin, do you got a comment?
As Jim explained, we've already taken this basic course and signed it and submitted it. I imagine Becky has all those certificates, and if we're taking a course with sickage, wouldn't that be redundant?
It's a course that has to be repeated every year.
All right. Can we take the similar course that we took last year?
We can, if there's going to be, if the department heads want to take it on to make sure that it's completed. And that's kind of where the question comes. I'm trying to get stuff off the department head's plate, or off the department head's plate, so they can focus on their jobs. But I also leave it up to them of what they want to do.
Well, at $30 a head, it just seems like it's something we've already done, and it just, if we have to do it again on a county basis, that should be sufficient to take the load off our shoulders.
I'd just like to add that both public programs and then any private ones that I've been involved with, there's always been a certificate that you had to file one way or another with somebody, you know, at my work or in the government. So if you meet the minimum standards with the state portal or the, you know, the portal that you're already talking about, that might be sufficient. But I'm not familiar with how many staff, you know, some of the departments have had yet. I'm just getting into it. I was told there's 192 full and part-time employees in the county, so probably pretty close to that. Yeah.
Well, 192 times 30.
$6,000
every year.
every year. Yep.
Jim, you have anything to say on that?
Nothing further. So that's my concerns, that since we're complying with the statute, I don't see how we can be faulted for the approach we're taking.
Well, I agree.
Chris, have you had any feedback from department heads that were concerned about it? Again, I'm a small department, so I didn't know, because for $6,000 a year, it seems like it'd be worthwhile for us to track our own certificates.
I think there's department heads who have concern because they're the size and scope. You look at transportation, that's definitely going to be a much larger. The sheriff's department already does it, I believe. So he's only got a couple employees, but the transportation department's really who's going to be affected by it. This building, you guys have small enough staff that you can track it yourself in reality. So if we want to try to save $6,000, that's fine. I guess we can do the online training. Now the question is, do board members have to take said training as well? And do you get paid per diem for doing the free training? I think it goes back to what you said, Jack, that you don't get paid.
Yeah, I whether we do this the state one and it's free, but county boards members should take it yearly without per diem.
Those certificates are likely in a format where we can store them electronically, correct? Like a PDF or something?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, in IT, I could help structure a space. Since none of that's secret, that particular information is not secret, we could create a shared space in our SharePoint spot online where we could file that, essentially be the compliance, you know, create a directory for it, and then for each year have it, and then have a directory for each department, and then people could just drop them in there, and then that's where they could be stored and filed. You wouldn't be necessarily having to give it to somebody else, and you wouldn't have to put it into a file cabinet or something like that. And if that's something you'd like to do, we could get going on that. You know, it's your
I like that idea.
And then this takes care of managing the HR part of it, because the department heads would just have to either have access to it or help. We could help just get it in there, and it'll be an open area. It's not secret, so it's not like, you have to worry about privacy or anything.
But who's going to police that to make sure that everybody's out there?
And that's my concern. So now you're going to put it on the department heads to police it.
And that's fine. I mean, again, I, like Melindy, I have a very small department and I don't really have a big problem doing that, because right now all the department heads that's the only place where you've got personnel policies. Everybody has their own in their own offices. We don't have a central place for personnel personnel files. There's no central personnel files anywhere in the county either. So
Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a certificate right here that we get with the state. You fill that out, and a copy of that should go to the county for recording. The county clerk can have a folder for county board members.
So our recommendation is to not go with Sikich, to do the online trading and make department heads held accountable to make sure their employees complete said task.
Well, with the county clerk having a copy of all the county board members, if we not do business with Sikich in the future, you know, who would have those control of those files later on? Sikich would. This way, each individual department head has their files with their employees. County clerk would have the file of any county board members. It's just a small file folder. That's all you need.
We're talking to everybody right now that we want to move away from sickage. Everybody takes it, including county board members. Department heads hold they're responsible for getting the training done for all their employees, and all county board members will go to clerk's office.
And then a question, is that going to be all online or in person?
It will all be online. Just like what you took again this past year, Bob.
As Jim said, it's kind of redundant.
So does somebody want to make that into a motion, into a recommendation to go to county board with?
I'll make a motion that we just do the online that's provided by the state, and then turn the certificate in that you actually sign to the county clerk.
And no per diem.
And no per diem.
No, we've already done it without per diem. So, you do it at your convenience. It's not a matter of fact that you have to do it on a certain time and a certain date.
Can I get it?
This is just me for clarification.
So can I get a second to that, Bill, or you got a question?
I'll second it.
Is there any other further discussion? I believe it has to be done by the end of the year, December 31st.
Anytime throughout the year.
Correct. Any other discussion?
I have a question. This is Nancy. So are you telling me then that I would have to police everybody that make sure they get that to me and have it in a file?
Just the county board members and your department.
Correct. Okay.
All those in favor of making that recommendation, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Fantastic. Moving on. It'll go to executive, correct? That,
Yes.
You got the rest of it?
Forward that on to executive, please.
okay, moving on to county administrator discussion. So we haven't had a county administrator for several months now. I've been ad service chair for here 3 months, and I watch what Mr. Olson is going through as chairman of the board. I can definitely see a need for it, and it's definitely something that we need to readdress and so they'd like it to come out of this committee, a job description if we choose to go that route, and go from there. So I open it up for discussion.
This is Jim Horstman. My view on this is that the county administrator position was a very expensive one. It turned out to be one of the highest paid positions in the county. I don't have any reason to disagree with you, Chris, on the need for some help. But I would like to find a less expensive alternative than going to a full-blown county administrator, which last time around cost us, with benefits and everything, about $120,000. What I would like us to consider instead is a more administrative position and a job description that's written from the bottom up, instead of starting with the boilerplate job description that we used last time. We sit down and figure out, what help do we need? What needs to be done? And create a position based on things that we really need help with now, and not be looking for somebody who is going to have the level of authority that the last administrator had. So my concern is primarily financial. I also am concerned, the last time around with the county administrator, there were questions of conflicting authority. We have really good department heads. I'm not sure that we really need to interpose another line of authority between the department heads and the county board. So I agree that it sure seems like we need more help, and I'm looking for something about half the cost and something more administrative and more directly responsive to the board chairman's needs.
I know number one, HR is a high concern. We're going to pay 5,800. We just paid it for sickage every quarter. So just call that $22,000. I know talking to department heads and chairman of the board, HR is definitely a on-site need that I think they all definitely agree that we need. Paul?
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak to this issue. As a new employee, a new department head, and somebody who is through my entire career is focused on workflows, whether as a chemist or a publisher or as an IT manager, optimizing workloads. I want to be poking and prodding around and talking to people about how they use their technology and what they do in their work anyway. I can create a little report related to your issue and see how workflows are and communications are and provide it to this committee too, that would help you advance your discussion on the county administrator role. It'll come out of my surveys anyway, so you can use it or not. So
Jim, I don't disagree with you. I think that if we do decide to go with the county administrator, we have to revamp the whole job description. That's a number one task, that we have to identify what authority they do and don't have. And then who is going to do reviews, such stuff like that? Who do they actually report to? There were some issues in the past job description that we all kind of are aware of. Go ahead, Mr. Bally.
Yeah, I believe an administrator sometimes should be able to look forward to, where things are changing, and maybe would have seen this solar coming, so we could have done some work ahead of time, or what's happening with the landfill with all the other counties. A lot of these corporations we're dealing with are a lot bigger than our county, and I'm not even opposed to a corporation that kind of does it. That way, if we don't like them, we can let go of them, just to advise the committee or something. We need somebody that kind of oversees the PR of our county, not on a year-by-year basis or 2-year basis. We need somebody more long-term. That's my feeling. Thank you.
Chris, I had a follow-up question for Paul, if I may.
Yeah.
Paul, you had mentioned you're going to do this survey that may be of assistance to us in terms of communications and what needs to be done. What's your timeline on that, Paul?
I'm kicking out the survey by the end of the week. Well, first of all, an email to elected officials and department heads, hopefully by the end of today, and then hopefully by Thursday, the survey for everybody. Everybody has an email address in the county's email directory that's an employee. And also through any calls, questions, and as things come up, as I've been asking, what do you need help on in terms of IT project management, even though I may or may not be directly involved. Because that'll, especially today, IT touches everything. So, and then I've already been introduced to the website as a former webmaster and copywriter and website developer. I'm sure there's people that have, a couple of people have already suggested changes to that. Changes to the website tie into, and I forget who was mentioning it, but the communication, for the county. So it would be nice to have a coordinated county communication plan. A county administrator could certainly help out in that regard. Just as a simple example, on your website, you got a link to Facebook and Twitter, but they don't go anywhere. They go to a page that says, to be coming. Is that important? It's only important if you feel those are important communication channels and you've dedicated somebody to do that. You could do that through a county administrator, or you could do that through this kind of other type of administrative person that you're talking about. So my survey, I'm hoping to have my results in by, well, I'm going to give people a week or so to reply. Then I'm going to follow up with some people that haven't, and then ask them some follow-up questions. So I would expect to have a report by your next meeting. So that's my goal. And And I'm also encouraging people to have, if they have any questions at all, any outstanding issues or anything that they think they should need to know, to contact me directly. I came into IT from an environment where the IT manager would not listen to people, and that's not my style. So I'm gonna try to collect that information and get it back to you in advance of the next committee meeting.
Well, we appreciate that. I say we table this topic to the next meeting till Paul gets his survey done, and we can pick up the discussion where we left off. Does that sound all right to everybody? Can I get a second to that?
Second, Jim.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I skipped over employee handbook update. Couple changes. Charlie's office did a fantastic job looking for spelling errors. So without having to go through all of those, if you guys are okay with just spelling errors, a couple things that were brought to my attention were under the bullying section. Mr. Horstman made an update that says the following behaviors may, under certain circumstances, constitute workplace bullying. It kind of replaces a line a little ways up. It's in page 10, section 1-6. It just kind of clarified it, and I thought it was a very good change and update. Other than that, the one topic that I wanted to talk about is the last page, Wendy and the other department heads. The last page is the new employee checklist. It was put in here because we really didn't know where else to put it. It's kind of how Wendy told me. She believes, and I think a lot of the other department heads, this should come off of this page, off of the handbook, and just be a working document for either the HR department or the department heads as we have new employees coming on. So there's a couple changes in there. Who's responsible now that Paula's office has taken over payroll, and but those are some changes that we can get out to you. Is there any other changes that anybody else saw that they want to call out?
I had a couple that may already have been picked up, but I saw a couple of paragraphs where the handbook used the term company instead of county. That was in section 1-11 and 2-7. Obviously, it's a cut and paste from a private corporation document. But they should do a universal search and pull out the word company and make it county, I think.
Yep, Becky and I can work on that. So Jack, you have one word, customer. Oh, sorry, Jim.
Most of these are little, but there were a couple of paragraphs also where they used a description of an office that we don't have. Like in 2.6, they refer to the president. And in 3-3, they refer to director of payroll.
So on your 2-6, I have it changed to department head, county human resource representative, or county board chair is how I believe it should be written.
We don't have a human resources representative, do we?
Well,
I noticed that one also.
Kenny Andrews, Sickich.
So the paragraph that I noticed it was in the hiring process, but we didn't include them in the hiring processes. So is that really an appropriate place? It was in 2 point something. Let me go back. I was just trying to read through it. Oh, it was regarding background checks during the search process. And as far as I know, we didn't include Sickich in the search process. Are they keeping our background checks?
I don't
for
believe
us?
they are, but I think it says or, so it gives you the option to allow them to. That's the only reason why I think we want to include them in there.
I mean, maybe we're getting petty, but
Right.
you know, if I'm doing a search and I'm supposed to give this to somebody, I wouldn't have a clue who to give it to.
Right.
And then it also in that same section starts to refer to personnel files. And again, is this something that the department head is going to keep in their personnel files because we don't have a central personnel file? I do have payroll files in our office, which is going to keep things that are related to payroll, but I'm not going to keep things like background checks and that sort of thing in the payroll files. Are you guys planning to move this ahead right now? Because
No.
okay, good, because I haven't gotten through it because I really just didn't want to work any weekends the last couple weekends, so.
Okay, so
Being here.
you want to email when you find changes
I will.
and we'll bring it up. Jim, you got more that you want to go through?
Just a couple quickly. In section 2-4, the last paragraph, this is the paragraph, the section on introductory period. The last paragraph, it says, an introductory employee shall receive several informal oral evaluations. If we could delete several, it'd probably be helpful. I know of at least one situation where someone was complaining that they had not received enough evaluations. So I think that the meaning and intent is clear, but if you remove several, then we're going to avoid a situation where somebody argues that they didn't get a sufficient number of evaluations during that period.
Everybody here shaking their heads, so.
Yeah, I agree.
The last thing is in section 4-6, advisory insurance committee, in the subsection meeting dates. It says that, I'm trying to find it. I think it says shall meet at least quarterly. And I think that's a good idea, but I'm on that committee and that committee has not met at least quarterly. So I wonder if we should consider, instead of that, should we say something like shall meet at time set by the committee chair?
Just as needed or something along those lines, right?
Something.
Yeah.
I raised the issue. It's an important committee, and maybe people feel like quarterly is what it should be, but it hasn't happened, at least in the last year that I know of. So I just put that out there for consideration.
So how about as needed, determined by county board chair or chairman of the committee?
That would be consistent with what's been going on the last year. Yeah.
Perfect.
Chris, just a heads up, that advisory committee was originally created, it came out of the sheriff's department union contracts. And it was a number of years ago, and I don't really remember, but somebody should probably verify that union contract to see if that's consistent. Or in the contract, did it call for these quarterly meetings? I agree with everything that was said. I just want to make sure you're consistent with the sheriff's contract.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just writing some notes here.
I had just come across a couple that I read. It's kind of written it throughout there, but it talks about customers, and I really don't think that we deal with customers. I think we deal with the public or the citizens. I know it's kind of silly, but I don't know. I just think that we deal with the citizens of the people rather than they're not really customers of ours.
Why don't we do a Google search or a search of customers in the whole document? Because I think it goes back to Jim's point where we don't need the word president in there when it's a cut and paste. So we'll look at all spots where customer is used.
I think one of the things that I noticed there when it comes to the FMLA, that would be section, it's like section 1 eligibility, where it talks about FMLA leave. There's a section in there, it says be employed at a work site where 50 or more employees are located within 75 miles of a work site. I don't know if that necessarily, or special hours or service eligibility requirements for airline flight crews. I think they just copied and pasted from similar handbooks that they've done for other places. And they instituted another reason why I think we should have an HR person.
So Jim, that's section 5-4. If that your convenience, you want to look at that and give us any thoughts on it.
Does it make more sense to just reference the law in here as opposed to trying to rewrite the law in our policy?
That's what I was just saying.
Yeah, because every time it changes, you've got to change your policy.
It should just be written as the law states that we have to follow. Right?
Well, and it goes back to this HR thing. I messaged Sikich in regards to medicinal marijuana. Our policy is a zero policy. What if we have an employee who's on it for medicinal needs? We're a zero tolerance. And so I messaged them over 3 weeks ago and yet to hear a response back. So.
And the section 5-4 is not the only place where they've said, well, we intend to follow the law, and then they restate it. So if we begin to clean it up with that respect, which is probably a real good idea, it's going to apply to other sections as well.
Yeah, and once again, who does that? Because we've already had Sikich do it, and this is the document they came back with. So it's not like I'm going to be like, hey, go and do this again because you just did it. And I can ask them for it, but I think we're going to end up with something very similar because it's a cut and paste.
By the way, Chris, is this within our quarterly fee with them, or are they charging us more?
Last year even.
This was last year's update. This was
Okay.
updated last year. So the
I thought-
quarterly fee is a hourly fee that we agree to use them per hour, and anything we go above that, then we have a reduced hourly rate, is my understanding of that. And with some of the things that are going on, I'll bet you we're going to blow through that. Paul is just shaking her head like it's
You did last year. I don't think it's going to be any better this year.
so. We're way past that, she says. Is there any other changes that you guys see glaring? If they're just grammatical or simple changes like president, company, customer, email me. We'll get a working document with a red strike and have that for the next meeting that we have, if that's all right with everybody.
The only thing I had is a question on nepotism.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
There's a section in here that deals with nepotism. Charlie, I might need some help on this. It's 2-3. When you got two employees may marry or become related or enter an intimate relations, may not remain in a reporting relationship.
Sorry, Jack, what page are you on?
What's that?
What page are you on?
21,
Okay.
2-3.
2-3.
Okay.
Talking about two employees. Now, let's just say that, and it says, that they should be moved to a different location within the company or, obviously Lee County. But let's say they're in a department, and all of a sudden they're dating and then one gets promoted and next thing you know, one is over the other. Are we going to move one of those employees to another part of the county? I mean, this is what this is saying, another job within that county. Because it says Lee County has the right to decide which employees will remain with Lee County. Right. Well,
Forget about the mic.
we're dealing with some departments have, bargaining units within them. And I don't think they have nepotism in their particular, but I would think that, if there is a relationship, I think it should be brought to the department heads, and writing, and they sit them down. And if this becomes an issue, they're forewarned I don't know. I just think it should
Be
be
addressed.
addressed. Yeah, because here it's cut and clear that, that one of them's going to go.
Bill, go ahead. Looks like you're raising your hand.
I did. What is the definition of nepotism? I don't think it would extend to couples that are engaged or anything like that. I thought it was a question of marriage.
Well, there is a definition in the handbook on what nepotism is. Let me see if I can find it.
I got it, if you want me to read it. It says, Bill, it says, the definition that's included in the handbook says close relatives, partners, those in a dating relationship or members of the same household are not permitted to be in positions that have a reporting responsibility to each other. So it does.
Oh, all right. Well, it isn't. It's Sicket's definition of nepotism. I don't think it is true nepotism, but if we're using that term and they go on and explain what they intend, there's no question.
Not to challenge my bosses here, but as a former copywriter and technical editor, that would be pretty consistent with the definition of nepotism. Typically the phrasing of anyone in the same household, whether or not a blood relation. What?
Nothing. I was trying to Google it.
Oh, yeah. That would be fairly consistent. It's more not the technical definition, but it's the spirit of the law. Anybody that you have that you would have influence over in a reporting relationship, that you also have an extremely personal relationship, sharing a house, family relationship. But that said, I personally know units of government that have similar language in there, and they go out and they hire their grandkid to do some temporary work and the like, and pay them, cash out of the county coffers. So it's just the spirit of it. That's consistent with the spirit of nepotism. So. Charlie?
So the question I guess I have for Jack is, what is it that you'd like to change it to, or how do you envision that you want it different than what it is?
Well, being a ex-employee and having a different handbook than what this has come up, I believe that you had to notify your, I think it was your department head at the time, whether it be a documented thing. And that's what I believe that, that I don't know if it was enforced, but it was in writing. But if all of a sudden you become in a day relationship, with someone in that regards, I think it should have been documented or, brought to the attention, hey, we're dating now, and especially when, if say that one of those persons got promoted, it could be an issue. And here it's already been documented. And then all of a sudden, the subordinate is upset because now the breakup is coming. It could create some conflict, or that relationship goes down or sour. I think that you kind of put these employees on notice that, hey, you guys still got to come into work and do your job. If not, we're going to go back on this particular handbook and start doing some disciplinary if that's what's needed. That's just my thoughts. But here they're, in this new handbook, they're putting in nepotism that, hey, someone's got to go. Or we're going to move you to another department or to another area where you're not reporting to that person anymore.
Some reporting. I feel like that could create issues if we're from a reporting structure.
And there's a whole world of legal issues that you're walking into with that, in terms of whether or not someone's being jumped over for a supervisory position because they have the relationship, or if it's there's a lot there that you can unpack.
So do you, Charlie, believe that the wording is what we should follow, what's in there legally?
That's what Sickich is recommending. I'd go with that because they deal with that a whole lot more than I do.
Yeah.
And nepotism is kind of the opposite side of the sexual harassment and or harassment of employees, where you're favoring somebody because of a relationship rather than harassing them and trying to push them out or jeopardizing their role or position in the organization. So it's just, they're both sides, and, you know, ultimately the board's, you know, sets policy. So.
Is there any further discussion on the handbook, or do we want to table this for one more month and come back and continue to give people time to read through it and make any recommended changes?
Chris, excuse me, Chris, this is Wendy. As I told you the other day, I haven't had a chance to get through it as well. So I would appreciate if you give us another month to get that job done. Just to put it on your radar, something that I have need to look at and research with Sikage's recommendation here is how they handle the part-time or the permanent part-time sick time. Right now, the county allows prorated sick time for permanent part-time employees. And Paula and I discovered with the new payroll system that the way the language was worded in the existing manual is really quite onerous and challenging to put into the payroll system. So I want to look at that language and see if we can make it a little bit more easier and add clarity to it so that there is a very easy mathematical solution to figure out what that prorated sick time should look like. So that's one of the things on my radar that I will come forward with a recommendation on, probably work with Paul on that to make sure it's consistent and able to be applied in the payroll system. But I just want that on your radar that that's something I'm looking at.
I would agree we need to table it for another month.
Can I have a second to table this?
I second
Yes, I
Jim
make a motion.
Horstman.
All in favor to table it, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on, we have a resolution for weed control superintendent. It's a yearly position. I have a motion to move that on to executive
I'll make a motion.
in a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Last but not least, we have membership size of county board. This is we can only do this once every 10 years. We need to begin this discussion because we need to, I believe, approve it by May, I think June at the latest, but we're going to try to get through it before May to make sure we give plenty of time. So open up the discussion about number of county board members.
I know this is Bob Gibler. Jim has done some work on this, some research work. I've done some research work. I've gone back to county board meetings from 2003 forward. So that's 17 years. County board meetings, of course, were always held in public and not on the Zoom meetings. But in the public ones, we've had an average of 3.4 members absent at county board meetings. So if you reduce the board down to 20, you know, you might wind up getting that reduced number again. Also, I think that the 24 factor is a good flow for committee meetings and everything else, because we have a lot of members that don't attend all of the meetings. I think it's a little bit better now since we have Zoom that they can attend those meetings, but in person, we've always had a problem with members not attending the committee meetings as well as the county board meetings.
Well, I think in-person meetings are more important, I think, to engage in conversation. I think the Zooms are a nice fix for this pandemic. But
Yes.
I believe to interact with people before and after, I think as a county board person, you know, you can share ideas, this and that. And plus you get to know your fellow person. So I don't want to rely on Zoom meetings for the future. I think we should all be in person back when this thing comes forward for. So with that, you know, only being involved in this county board for 2 months now, and being involved in county Lee County for 30 some years. You know, I've attended some meetings. I see, you know, I might step on some toes. I only see half this board really doing anything. So I think the number should be down. I think we should not just go to 20. I think we should go to 14 in my thoughts. I think that, you know, if you're going to be on the county board, you know, I didn't join this to make any money. I came here to make a difference. And I think if you want to be involved, I think you need to get involved beyond 2 committees. Especially if we get an administrator, we can get some work done. And you don't have to wait around till the next month to get work done. So I think if you're going to be on the county board,
Jim Hackbarth.
show up and get, you know, be prepared, you know, for that meeting to come up, get some things done. And I think with less people, I think we can get some things done.
I believe with Jack, I believe I'd like to see it down to 16. I think I'd like to see combining some committees together, get through committee week. We need to readdress some stuff in the handbook as far as like right now, finance meets Tuesday morning or Thursday morning, and then executive is to follow. If you're the chairman of finance, you're not getting paid per diem for that executive session that you're sitting in. I think those are changes that we can make based on per diem, but I agree. I think 16 with a more gives people doing more with less. We're asking department heads to take on less people. We're asking the sheriff's department to take on less. I think we can start here as county board members of being like, hey, if we're going to do this, we'll take on more responsibility because I can't defer it to other people. Type of mentality. So
This is Jim Horstman. I have a couple of concerns with shrinking the size of the board. One goes to a point that's been made about not all the members are active. I don't think that shrinking the size of the board in any way guarantees you that everyone who remains is going to be active. You know, if only 50% of the board are active, that 50% may just stay constant. So if you shrink the board, you're just going to end up by reducing the number of active people. Maybe it's a concern. The other concern is different, and that is that by reducing the number of elected positions, you really frustrate efforts to expand the scope of the board in terms of age, gender, race. This is a very homogeneous group on our board now, with 24 positions open for election. You have younger people, women, people of different racial groups have, you know, a better chance of being elected, I think, than if you cut that position in half. I'm not really sure how that fleshes out, but my gut is that if you shrink the size of the board, the women and young people and people of other groups who want to get in are going to have less opportunity to do that. And the only other point I would raise is one that I had brought up some months ago when this first came up, is there doesn't seem to be any financial savings of any significance in shrinking the size of the board, because the per diems are relatively minimal. So taking 4 seats off or 8 seats off, you're really not saving a lot of money, and it may be at the cost of giving up opportunities for diversity and maybe reducing the number of active participants. Those are my concerns. I don't have a strong feeling on how many board positions there should be, but any shrinking of it seems to implicate these problems.
Mr. Bally.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Everything he said, I agree on. If I look back and I looked at the low vote getters on different elections, and a lot of them people we don't want off the board. They're very, very valuable to the board. The other thing is we no longer have a local newspaper per se, and so the board members are the community, are the people who talk to the community, and the more we got, the more likelihood we reach a different diversity of people. So, and at first I thought, yeah, we could reduce this, but this is not an ideal situation. We do have 5 different meetings or committees, and you got to have at least 5 on each committee, or 2 people can't talk to each other under UCCI recommendations. So you would end up with just a few completely running the county. And so, yeah, I thank Jim on everything he said. I agree with that too. Thank you.
And I'm not going to speak as a department head, but rather as a guest that served in different units of either 5, 7, or 28 member bodies, 128 board member county board in Winnebago County. These discussions go on, you know, when any committee, any group that has the ability to change their size, these go on all the time. And I'm not going to comment. I think I've spoken to Chris briefly about it, what my personal opinion on it, but just in the state's attorney's office can correct me. But at the same time as you have the opportunity to change the number of board members, you have a time to redistrict. If you're gonna change the number somehow, you may want to reorganize your district to maintain the inclusiveness that you're looking for. So those are 2 items on your plate if you decide to change the number of board members.
Mr. Palin, you had something?
Yeah, I agree with Paul as far as the Zoom situation is concerned. It's a great advantage for people in a situation like we are now in pandemic or extreme situations, but you can't beat an in-person meeting. And also I agree with Dave and Jim as far as the numbers of the board is concerned. 10 years ago, we went from 28 people to 24 people. And in my estimation, it's working well. And so I'm in favor of 24 members in the board. That's all I have.
So this can only be done every 10 years.
This can only be done every 10 years. On a
Every
census,
10 years, right?
because everybody's up for reelection in 2022.
I don't have a specific number. I do think what made us go from 28 to 24, and if it's working, would 24 to 20 work?
And that I don't know until you do it, right?
Right.
So like ripping off the Band-Aid. Go ahead, Mr. Bally.
Don't we have redistricting also? Once the polls come in about what the size of our county, we can also redistrict and set up a new county membership size.
Charlie.
So I think what you're talking about is the census that is done federally, but also are you talking about the reapportionment portion of the statute?
Basically using the census, don't we reset up our districts see how to keep them even if we have a major moving or something?
Yeah, so once the federal census is completed and that is in conjunction with the statute you're referring to as the reapportionment, it's at that point where the county board chairman could also give a reapportionment plan to the board to decide upon.
I just want to, I want to rebut a couple of the reason for keeping it because of the diversity of, I don't know, I just can't wrap my head around the reason to do that. Granted, but I just think if you've got more people, granted, you're going to have a diversity of ideas, but sometimes that diversity of ideas slows everything down. And that's why I'm for, shrinking it down a little bit. I was even thinking about, before today's meeting, is to take a poll from all the different department heads and just kind of ask them, hey, as you work with the county board, would you rather only deal with 14, or do you continue to deal with 24 of us? And just to kind of get their ideas, their input from them. I mean, I was going to do that, but I didn't, but I wouldn't mind, just hearing from them too, because they're the ones that have to deal with us. But, we obviously, represent the public of all Lee County also.
You've got department heads sitting right there. Just turn around and ask them.
Well, there's only 4 of them compared to the
Four? Well, how about the 4 that are here?
If you open questions up to me, I'll talk your ear off all day.
Wendy, go first. Quick answers.
Okay, here's my quick answer. I'd rather work with 14 if I get to pick my 14.
16's probably the realistic number, right?
Oh,
Maybe 12.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it is sometimes nice to deal with less people because you're having to do less communication. Although with email, I can send out an email blast and communicate with everybody. But what I keep coming back to on a personal level, I was surprised to hear Jim or one of you bring this up, is that if you actually look at the elections, who is it that would have been eliminated over the last 10 years by having a smaller number? And is it those people that are in fact the engaged and active ones? That's the only thing that scares me about the smaller numbers, is are we going to get the active ones that actually get elected?
Wendy or Paula? Just look, or Paul, you want to?
Paul or Paul?
Either one. Paul, you're leaning in.
Gorski goes ahead. Well, having dealt with this personally in Winnebago County, and I was on a board with 28 that went down to 20. My personal take on it and my research at that time is that the larger legislative bodies generally come up with more conservative budgets because you have more eyes supposedly taking a look at it. But I've also been on boards that have been very small, not county boards, but other boards where if you don't have enough people, you really don't have any discussion or debate, or you don't even have a quorum to hold a meeting. So my recommendation would be, I don't care, I mean, how many county board members I would have to deal with. If you ask me, I'd say go back to 28. But if you're gonna reduce it, make sure that ties in with a reorganization, redistricting plan that's inclusive. Taking a look at Lee County, you got most of your residents, or a good portion of them, in Dixon. So parceling out and making diversity throughout the region is going to be, you want to maintain that. 14, 16, I think that's just being, kind of picky. If you want to go down another 4 to 20, you can try that. And then another 10 years, you've got another, chance to go down to 16 or 14. But I wouldn't chop it in half necessarily right away. I wouldn't go to 12. For me personally, as a department head, it's no harder for me to talk to 16 people than it is to 24. So.
Paula.
I don't know, I'm kind of mixed on this discussion. I guess the only thing that I can add that hasn't already been maybe said is sometimes I think when you're a member of a large group, it's easy to not step up because you're just going to assume somebody else is going to step up. And if it's a smaller group, then you're sort of forced to do that, or you decide that I don't want to put in this kind of time and you step down and maybe somebody else steps in. So I just think sometimes with a large group, there's just the assumption somebody else is going to take care of that little problem. And I think statutorily, this is the first place I've worked with that in a government situation. I'm sorry, a county situation, and the structure here is different, and your requirements as board members is statutorily a little different than some of the other governments I've worked for. So there are requirements for the board members, and I think some step up and some don't. And maybe you're never going to get away from that. Maybe 50% of them are always not going to step up, no matter how small your board is. I don't know.
Nancy, do you have a comment?
It's Nancy, and I don't know, I'm only in day 6, so I don't really feel that I have input yet. Check with me in maybe a month or so. Thank you.
I agree with what Paula is saying. I've got a different perspective in terms of the herding of cats when we have the 24 members, because I've got 24 members that are looking at different ways that they want to have resolutions or ordinances or whatever it may be. So I'm fielding calls and emails from 24 people. Obviously, I'd like to have that down to maybe 12 or so. So that's the bias portion of it. I guess the question that I have when it comes to the board size is how many different counties of our like makeup are composed of 20 or more? If you've got Winnebago that's got 20, what are we doing?
3 times, 4 times, 5 times the population.
Yeah.
Like Whiteside County's 24. They're almost double the population of ours. Ogle County, I believe, sits with 20 or 24.
And I get the argument for diversification of ideas and collaboration of a lot of different members. And if that's the argument you make, then we should have stayed at 28 then too. I mean, you should maybe go to 29. I don't know. But it seems to me that when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, it gets a little bit messy.
That's some of my thoughts there. Too many cooks. But again, this is why I when this started to come up on the agenda, I was like, this is what I care about, or this is what I think about.
I mean, I would say as a voter before I ran, it was always vote for 3 of 3. So there was never any,
Number 4.
or 4, right. I mean, it was just,
Yeah, there wasn't enough people.
everybody that runs gets in. I would tell you as a voter, I never felt represented by anybody that I was on the ballot. Like nobody comes out and says, this is what I as a board member is trying to do for our community. And I feel like part of that is because of the volume of people. If you have to run and you actually have to be committed to do stuff and perform and be responsible to the people that elect you, I feel like that would be a little bit different than the same people running and always getting on because nobody's ever running against them. It's quite a high volume of people in the district. So that's just my opinion prior to being on the board and why I ran for the board, of being able to actually run and say, this is what I'm doing for my community by being on the county board. I don't know about 16, maybe it is 20, I would be, but between 16 and 20, I would be comfortable with going down to.
So how about we table this topic and encourage all of us to communicate with other county board members who aren't on ad services to see what their opinion is. I want to get the recommendation and the resolution coming out of this committee to be right. So talk to other board members, see what their opinion is. Those that are for you and against your position, and go from there. So can I have if that's all right with somebody, I'll ask for a motion to table this.
I'll make a motion.
Alan,
I'll second it.
Mr. Stogstad, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 No executive. I lost my agenda. I have no executive. So I need a motion. Oh, one quick announcement. Miss Allen will be attending executive for this committee this week because I have a prior commitment. So can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Have a great week, guys.